ago, I started a project that I called the Spindle to Sweater project. This was one of my first videos, I think my second video ever, and this was a project to spin using a drop spindle all of the yarn that I needed to make a sweater. And I do have a particular sweater in mind. It's the Dead of Night sweater by Hannah Mann, and I only have drop spindles. I don't have a spinning wheel. I will be spinning a whole sweater quantity of yarn on a drop spindle. I have a bunch of Blue Face Leicester and a bunch of Cheviot yarn that I'm going to ply together to make a 4-ply yarn and then dye it. Now, have I been as productive on this over the last year and a half, 2 years as I would have liked? No, I have not. I continuously forgot to do any spinning, / didn't feel like it. So this is what I have spun in the time since that video, and well, that isn't all. Also this. So yeah, I thought even though I don't think I've spun, well, I haven't spun enough yarn to do the full sweater quantity yet, but I thought it was about time I did an update on this video, so I thought I would start plying anyway, which starts with getting this yarn off of the spindle. I have once tried to just pull the cop off. Everything got horrendously tangled, and the result was all of these teeny tiny balls of yarn. Where's the end of this? Oh, here it is. Don't roll away from me. Right, okay, this needs to come off, and then I'm gonna wind around the middle and start forming a ball. Ah! I dropped my spindle. Just trying to keep this, dear, as taut as possible so that it doesn't pigtail up like that. But as you can see, it is pigtailing. But there's a little example of what the yarn's going to be like. That's exciting. You can feel it is still quite, oh, for God's sake, still quite like taut. I think I have overspun this, but the rest is overspun, and I didn't want it to be uneven. I didn't want it to be more spun in some places and less spun in other places. So I was like, if I started off doing it overspun, I will keep overspinning it. If I could stop dropping my spindle, that would be really nice. Here is a ball of yarn that I've just wound off of this spindle. Now, the spindle that I'm going to use to ply is actually this spindle because it's a little bit bigger, it's a little bit heavier than this one. So I'm hoping that this one will be big enough because it's the biggest one I've got. But before I start doing things with the spindle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a plying ball. Now, what this means is, because I'm doing a 4-ply, I'm going to grab, let's say these 4. These look about equal size. They're not quite equal size, but they're like the closest I'm going to get. So what you don't want when plying is for all of the singles to tangle together, because they're all still, they've got quite a lot of twist energy in them. So they, you know, they kind of want to curl up on themselves and twist up on themselves and get themselves into a tangle as soon as you let the untensioned singles near each other. On a spinning wheel, what I believe you would do is have them on separate bobbins and only bring them together when you're actually plying them together, when you're actually adding the twist energy in the opposite direction, because when you're applying the twist in the opposite direction. So I will have spun them all this way. Now I'm going to spin them back that way when I twist them together. And it just sort of, I think, helps kind of, as far as I'm aware, I'm no expert, what I gather is that the twist energy just kind of like, it just kind of helps it all, you know, I don't know. Anyway, so, but for a spindle, I have experience with this where I've tried to ply from balls like this, and it just gets tangled. Because you have to suspend the spindle out in front of you, and then, well, where are you keeping your balls? Are you keeping your balls over here? Your yarn balls over here? In that case, all of this going from the balls to where you're holding the yarn for the spindle, that's going to be slack, that's going to be loose, that's going to get tangled. It gets real messy, trust me. So the alternative is we make a plying ball. So what that means, I've never done this with 4 yarns before, actually, with 4 singles. I've done it with 2 yarns before. You take 2 balls of yarn, you find the ends, you hold them together, and then you start winding them into a ball, together, held together. I'm going to do that with 4 balls. So already you can see the second that this hand lets the yarn go slack, look at them, look at what they're doing. They're like pigtailing, they're gonna get so tangled if I'm not careful. So I'm gonna make sure this is nice and tensioned and straight and smooth. I'm gonna try not to drop them. That's why the yarn ball is handy. So I'm just keeping the yarns tensioned. I'm not spinning them, twisting them together at all. I'm just holding them together. And I'm keeping the tension on them so that they're not getting tangled. So then once I have my plying ball, I can basically just hold the ball of singles in one hand and then attach my spindle, spin from there. And then we're not combining the yarns and spinning them all in one step. We've combined them in one step and then we're spinning them together and adding the twist in another step. I found it a bit more, but let me show you what's just happened. Can you see that? One of my bits of yarn, as I was pulling it taut, snapped. So I feel I have 2 options here on what to do. One, I can kind of just like layer the ends like that, so that for a few inches we have a 5 ply, and then it'll go back to being a 4 ply. Or I could, because these are wool, 100% wool, non-superwash, I can felt them together. I think because I'm not twisting these right away, and I'll just have to hope that they hold together in the plying ball just loose, I think I will instead felt them. So let me just get a little bit of my water in my hand, pop one end on, pop the other end on, overlapping, get them both a bit wet, let's get a bit more water, and just rub them together. And the friction will create heat and also agitate them together, because of course the 3 ingredients for felting are moisture, heat and agitation. So the rubbing provides both the heat from the friction of my hands and also the agitation. I think those are nicely felted. And this is how I join yarn ends when I'm using 100% wool, rather than like tying a knot or something in my knitting and then having to weave in an end at the end. I just felt them together and then there's no ends to weave in. And yeah, this has worked quite well, and now I can carry on and it's fixed. Basically, so long as we're pulling from each yarn equally, and evenly, then we should be fine. That's why I'm trying to straighten out all of the pigtaily bits, because those have got like extra yarn in them, and we don't want one strand to have extra yarn compared to another. We want them all to be even. Straighten it out and wrap it up. Straighten it out and wrap it up. And when I get a little pigtail like this, I just kind of gently pull, and there, it's straightened out. I did have a thread break several times more, and I also had to join a new yarn ball when one ran out a few times. In all those instances, I decided to try layering the plies rather than felting them, but I did find that I wasn't sure how secure this method was. I think in future I'll just felt all the ends together. Things got pretty tricky towards the end. The singles were no longer big enough to weigh themselves down, so they went everywhere and they kept getting tangled. Next time I'll either wind them around something to weigh them down, or I'll fashion a closed container to put each single in, with a hole for the yarn to run through. This all took me the best part of 2 afternoons. A lot of that was stopping to undo tangles. Finally, I got to the point where this was all the yarn I had left. I decided this was a good stopping point and cut off the excess singles. Right, so here we are. This is the plying ball. So as you can see, the yarn has definitely started to wind itself, at least at this end. Obviously further down it hasn't, but yeah, this is 266 grams of yarn. So it's a bit bigger than I thought it would be. I was going for a standard 100-gram skein. Apparently this is 266. When I weighed it yesterday, I forgot to put my scales on like a proper flat surface. I had got an open notebook under there, and it said it was like 150 grams-ish. So I was like, oh, okay, like a skein and a half, fine. And then today I just like double checked. And I was like, I should probably actually put it on a flat surface, on a properly flat surface. And apparently it's actually 266. So this is quite a lot of yarn. I normally need at least 400 grams of 4-ply yarn for a jumper for my size. So that's the minimum I'll be aiming for. I'm going to go extra, obviously, just in case, because like, I don't really know how many meters this is. I know there are ways I could check. I'm not sure I can be bothered because it's a faff. I think you can get like actual proper yarn measuring tools. Alternatively, I can measure whatever I'm going to wind it around when I wind it into a skein, and then count how many rotations, how many times the yarn goes around the thing I'm winding it around, which will give me a good approximate. I don't think it'll be accurate necessarily, but that's assuming that I'm going to be able to keep count. I don't think I am. I don't think I can do that. I'm just going to go by weight and guess. But yeah, so here I have the plying ball. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie this onto here at this end. So now what I'm going to do, I originally spun them this way, so I'm going to spin them together this way. Okay, now I'm just gonna like fold this back and see what yarn we're getting. Oh, that's still very twisty. Still very twisty. We want this to hang mostly straight, so I'm running my hand down it to push the twist energy down into the spindle, and now the spindle is spinning back on itself. Now let's try, that's better. Look at that, look how nicely that hangs. Okay, I'm going to wind that on now. So I'm going to take that off, pop it on the spindle, and wrap it. Ooh, we're getting tangled. As in the hook is getting caught in the yarn that isn't plied yet. It's going to be a very full spindle by the end, I think. So let me, in fact, I didn't even need to spin that, just the twist energy in the yarn is spinning the spindle for me. Let's pop some more in, keeping it taut. No, spin the other way. Thank you. Let's see what that's like. Not too bad. I'm just going to wind it on anyway, it's fine. When I finish the yarn, when I like soak it or whatever I'm going to do, I haven't decided yet, that will sort out some of the extra twist energy that's in there. There we go, off it goes again on its own. Also, the singles are uneven, so the finished yarn will be uneven. I'm fine with that. I have personally decided that that is it's a feature. It's a design decision I have made that I did not want to spend loads of time and energy getting this yarn perfectly even. I'm quite happy for it to be a bit uneven. So don't come at me about my yarn consistency. It was meant to be like that. Come on. Don't be like that. Thank you. Pretty good. So this is where I've got to with plying this yarn. As you can see, this spindle is just a little bit full, just a little bit, and I have about half left. So I guess I'm actually making 2 skeins here. So I guess I'm just gonna cut this yarn. Look at my tiny little snips. I'm going to use my Swift to wind this up, and I will show you how. So I have my Swift set up here. I have my yarn, my plied yarn. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the end here and tie it, let's say, to this intersection here. I'm going to do a double knot so that it's nice and secure and it doesn't untie itself. And I can use, there's a little handle thingy up here. I can use that. So if I just kind of hold this loosely here, like this, I can do that. And as you can see, the yarn is just kind of wrapping itself around the Swift. It'll probably be a bit easier if I sit down and have the spindle in my lap. In which case, it would just be easier if I just, maybe if I don't drop the spindle on the floor while I do that. So I can just spin it like this. And it might be easier actually if I hold this upside down. It's probably easiest. Actually, that's not easy. Yeah, this is not, I never said it was going to be easy, but this will do the trick, I suppose. I think maybe if I find some way to hold this, maybe I can put it in the yarn bowl. Let's try that, shall we? Like this, maybe? Let's see how this works. Nope. Might be easier to like unwind some and then we wrap it around. I'm sure I did this before with a lot less difficulty. Maybe I was using a ball then, I can't remember. I don't know. Maybe it'll also be easier once this is a bit lighter, because right now it's just really weighing itself down. So, I don't know, I'll figure something out. And then I did all that again for the rest of the yarn on the spindle. Here's how the yarn looked before finishing. I'm using the book Yarnitecture by Gillian Marino as my guide for how to finish this yarn. I chose to do the snapping method, which involves soaking it in wool wash and hot water. I used warm water so as to lower the risk of accidentally felting it. Partially drying it with a towel. Then sort of pulling or tugging it between my hands so that the yarn kind of twangs. Then I hung it up to dry. However, skein 2 still looked pretty twisty and unbalanced, so I decided to try refinishing it. This time I chose the whacking method, which is a bit harsher of a finishing method, and I did use hot water instead of warm water to soak it this time, just in case that was what made the difference and what went wrong last time. Both snapping and whacking are meant to help redistribute the twist evenly so that the yarn is balanced. Whacking is just a more thorough way of doing it. I probably should have warned my partner I was doing this.
It's okay, I'm whacking yarn.
Okay.
Is that okay?
What, sorry?
You're not in a meeting, are you? No. Okay, good.
I'm not sure finishing it a second time really accomplished much, other than tangling my yarn enough that I had to reskein it. So there we have it. I've finished the yarn. So I'm mostly happy with it. This one is the first one that I plied, and I'm really happy with this one. It turned out really nicely. I've had to tie it up obviously with different yarn, so that's why there's like random little bits of colour in there. Look at that! So pretty, so nice. It's mostly really nice and soft and balanced, so yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that. The other one, however, I am a little less pleased with. You might be able to see in a few places that it is, it's a bit unbalanced. Some areas are just like more twisted than others, like one of the plies is more twisted than the others. Maybe you can see here, for example. Yeah, like here. Can you see how some of the plies, focus please. Some of the plies are like a bit wiggly and squiggly. Can you see that? And those areas just kind of feel a little bit harder and denser. You can feel, it feels over twisted still, overspun. Like you can just, it just like feels like there's a little knot. I don't know if you can see that or not. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what went wrong there. I have a few ideas, but I don't know which is the one that actually went wrong. Like, 'cause I think it's more so in this skein as opposed to this one that I was layering the ends of the wool instead of securing them when I got to an end of a single and joining a new one on, or when it broke. I was like layering them on top of each other in the plies, and so I don't know if like they got a bit like loose in some places and like misaligned or something, or if I didn't put enough twist in when I was plying, or if I put too much twist in when I was plying, or if all of it is just overspun, or if it's because in more areas in this yarn compared to this yarn, in this yarn we have more areas where the grey singles are really thin. You can see how like this one looks noticeably more grey than this one. And I think that is because I was spinning the grey quite thick at the start, and then I started spinning it more thinly, and I got to the thin bits in this skein, not this one. So maybe that's why, I'm not sure. Those are several reasons why it could have been the case. So I'm not entirely sure if I'll use this one. I feel like it would be a waste not to, but I do feel like there will be some uncomfortable parts of the jumper. There'll be just some little kind of scratchy bits where the yarn isn't very balanced and is, you know, still feels very overspun. But, you know, we live and we learn. This is the first time I'm trying to spin yarn to make a jumper. So it's been a good learning experience, at least. I mean, I'm pretty impressed with how much I've spun. Like, look at this. This is great. And to think I spun this on only spindles, only drop spindles. That's pretty great. I guess I'll update you on this project when I can. That's all I've got for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, do leave it a like and a comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Do please check out some more of my videos, again, if you haven't already, and if you feel like it. Thank you for watching, and happy crafting. Bye.